How does food waste connect to climate change and food access?
What can each one of us do to build food security and resilience in our communities? As a starting place, we recognize the need for greater food sovereignty, indexed income guarantees, community building, stronger social safety nets, and equitable access to land to address the root causes of hunger. Owning your own food waste is one part of this broader response.
Today I rescued about 200 kilograms of fresh vegetables, orange juice, fresh cut fruit that would have otherwise been in a landfill.
Cooking for a Cause Ottawa partners with restaurants and businesses throughout the city to divert food waste and deliver high-quality, fresh, nutritious meals and produce to neighbors across the city.
When we throw food away, we're wasting all of the resources that went into growing, harvesting, processing, and transporting our food to our tables. The food that we waste when we throw it in a landfill, it's just sitting there emitting gases which contribute to climate change. And unfortunately what we've seen is that climate change, the negative effects of it are disproportionately felt by marginalized communities around the world.
Food that ends up in a landfill emits the greenhouse gas methane, which is 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. In Canada, almost 60% of food produced is lost or wasted each year, resulting in approximately 56.6 million tons of methane emissions. Racialized and low-income communities in Canada and around the world are disproportionately affected by climate change through extreme weather events, heat waves, drought, flooding, compromised livelihoods, or disruptions to food supply chains.
When we learn to reduce food waste through a diversity of tactics, we can save money individually and collectively, we can build community, and we can mitigate the effects of climate change.
So a few years ago, I was working in a corporate job and it didn't really align with my sustainability values. So I was trying to do as much as I could in my personal life to live better, a better steward of the environment, because that's what I'm passionate about. Even though I was in the environmental sector my entire life, I had never heard about vermicomposting. So I did a lot of research, and maybe 6 months later, I finally had the courage to get my own stock of red wiggler earthworms, and I started a simple composting system at home. If every home, every restaurant, every community started composting with composting earthworms, we wouldn't have over 50 to 60% of our landfill, because 60% of garbage going into landfill is food waste. That's when I realized that there's no such thing as food waste. Nature has no waste, only humans do. What turns out to be food waste is actually an asset. It's an asset to help build us healthy soil.
The best place to start with this is just understanding food as a basic human need. It's really about people's capacity to feed themselves with choice and dignity. I think it's important to understand that food waste is a product of what I and sort of others have called a dysfunctional industrial food system. It's what I would call the safety valve at the end of it. In an interesting way, allows that food system to keep perpetuating itself, because we suddenly found this way of using what was surplus food to divert it from the landfill, whereby it becomes food waste, is seen as a moral imperative to feed hungry people. I understand it best when I think about it as leftover food, replacing adequate incomes to feed left behind people whose right to food actually has been denied. Because social justice is about fairness, it's about equity, it's about level playing fields, it's about people being able to look after themselves and their families and not have to be dependent on others to do that. I mean, I think that sort of ethos is deeply sort of ingrained in our society.
Our food bank here is one of the busiest in the city, so access to food and food security is absolutely a priority for us, and we can see it firsthand here. Having people knocking on our door and asking for a simple apple makes a huge difference, or even a bread that is rescued from a local bakery makes a world of a difference. We have 12 lots of wonderful garden plots where we plant, maintain, and reap the harvest at the end of the season, which goes directly back to our food bank so we can distribute it to our clients. We have it 1/16 of an acre just outside the city, which helps us as well. So we have about 20 volunteers just over there at the Just Food Farm.
It's transformative when someone has access to land to grow their own food. They have food sovereignty all of a sudden. It's more than just having enough calories or having enough food and not worrying about where your food is going to come from at the next meal. It's about having control over that whole process too, that you have food that you like, that food that is healthy for you, that you have choices, that you have food that's appropriate to your health needs, your medical needs, your cultural needs, and that it's produced in a way that isn't causing food insecurity somewhere else. It's not exploiting labor, it's not exploiting the environment in its production, and therefore compromising our ability to have good food in the future. The partnership between Gloucester Emergency Food Cupboard and Just Food began about 5 years ago when we started to grow food here to have at the food bank. We like to offer a lot of fresh, locally grown food. We learned about sweet potato leaf from Maria Jose, one of the Congolese farmers here. We were harvesting sweet potatoes that had been donated to us. It was part of a local trial and there were some leftovers after they planted them fields. So we planted them, weren't expecting much, but when we were harvesting them in the fall, she just happened to wander by and saw us tossing the leaves into the compost and she was horrified. It was good food. I do feel that if people have access to the food that they like and they understand and they've grown and put work into, they're probably less likely to waste it as well.
I'm here on Friday maybe and see people. I might not have another interaction with another human being till Monday. So the isolation, food equals connection. You know, if I could afford my own food, I would be losing out on the human aspect of this. This is a community that I am amazed. I've never seen anything like this.
We've learned that each of us needs to own our own food waste, transforming it instead into soil, diverse fresh foods, community meals, community building, as part of ensuring a cycle of good food for all in our communities, within an environment that can sustain us.